From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 530 News.
Did you see it? One of the largest planes in the world landing here in Billings. We'll tell you what it's doing here. After decades of tug-of-war over permanent funding for national parks and federal lands, the Great Outdoors Act is a done deal. Plus, you'll meet Liam, an incredible 8-month-old who is proving to be a strong-willed warrior. His story of survival coming up in Health Watch. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Russ Riesinger. Yellowstone County's steep climb of COVID cases in July physically stressing out our local hospitals. That spike now has county health leaders pleading with residents to change the game for August. At a news conference this afternoon, Yellowstone County Health Officer John Felton said we saw 850 new cases in July alone. Alarming numbers for health officials with only 3 weeks away from schools opening. Felton says the key heading into the school year is to aggressively follow up on cases and contact trace. But just because there's a breakout of the virus in the classroom doesn't mean a school will close.
August has an opportunity to be dramatically different than July, but it's really going to depend on everyone stepping up. I think what we should be very cognizant of as a community is that we're 3 weeks from sending kids back to schools. And 3 weeks is sufficient time to have a significant change in our status.
Felton is working with school administrators in the county to draft a back-to-school plan. There will be one county-wide policy for all schools to adhere to when it comes to slowing the virus at school events and activities. Felton hopes to unveil that plan before school starts. Across the state today, 82 new COVID-19 cases were reported in Montana. 15 of those new cases were in Bighorn County, which has seen 49 already so far in August. Yellowstone County added another 8. Prairie County registered its first case. This brings our state's total to more than 4,300 cases. More than 1,400 of those are active right now. Deaths remain at 64. Today, cleaning crews are disinfecting Billings City Hall after 3 city employees tested positive for COVID-19. City Hall is currently closed to the public. All city services are still available online or over the phone. Now, the city already had the infrastructure to provide many of its services over the phone since the first shutdown earlier this year. The building will open with limited hours from 7 a.m. until noon on Tuesdays and Thursdays until normal operations pick up on August 17th. Municipal court will still be in session during the shutdown with limited hours. To see the specific times and rules for court and other information about the city departments, you can visit the City of Billings website. Many of the city staff members have set up their office phones to ring through their home offices, so the phone numbers that you'll find on the city website should connect you to the person that you're looking for. There is still no agreement on another coronavirus relief package. Sticking points include unemployment, insurance payments, and for some, whether another big relief package is needed. NPN's Mike Dennison spoke with Montana's 2 U.S. senators about what's next.
First, the points of agreement. Senator Steve Daines, a Republican, and Senator Jon Tester, a Democrat, say any package needs to fund health care needs and help businesses still on the ropes and the unemployed.
There's going to be resources for small businesses to protect those businesses that are still struggling to keep people on payrolls.
As both sides negotiate, they need to realize that this economy is in very difficult shape. And the only reason it's reacted as positive as it is so far is because of those unemployment benefits and because of the PPP money that we put out early. So I think it's really important we take care of the businesses and take care of the folks out there that are unemployed.
Extra weekly unemployment benefits of $600 expired last week, and Republicans want a lower amount. Senate Republicans did offer to extend the $600 payment on a weekly basis as talks continued. Democrats rejected that offer, saying they want a long-term agreement.
A 1-week extension and another extension and another extension might sound good, but what we need is some predictability for our businesses and for our workers. That's the only way you keep things going in an orderly fashion.
Tester says he could live with a lower amount, but that it should be extended at least until the end of the year. Daines said he and other Republicans worry that more extensive payments will discourage workers from returning to the job.
There's incentives now where you can make more money being unemployed than employed. And so we want to make sure we take care of those who have lost their jobs, but remove any incentives that might make it easier to stay off the payroll than be on the payroll.
Danes and some Republicans also want to shield businesses from lawsuits related to the pandemic.
There's a trial lawyer pandemic brewing right now in our country. And so this is, it's affecting businesses, it's affecting schools, universities, and healthcare facilities.
Tester called that a non-starter and says it's not been mentioned much at all lately. Tester also told MTN News that he'd be surprised if the impasse is resolved quickly, because he says Republicans are not united on what to do.
There's a lot of folks that don't want to put any money into the economy. There's a fair chance we may leave here at the end of this week and not have a package. But I will also tell you that I think that there's going to be some pretty draconian things happen to the economy if we don't do something.
Reporting from Helena, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
Well, this latest package could be another $1 trillion in size. President Trump signed the Great American Outdoors Act this morning. This measure permanently sets aside billions for maintenance and infrastructure projects for national parks and federal lands. 35 years ago, President Ronald Reagan asked a special commission to look into permanent funding for public lands. The revenue is paid through oil and gas leasing. The fund has been a political bargaining chip through the years, but Congress finally found bipartisan support.
This is a big win for conservation. It's a big win for jobs. It's a big win for our Montana way of life. It's a big win for bipartisanship. And perhaps it's only fitting it took public lands to bring a divided government together.
We'll protect the Forest Service, our Fish and Wildlife Service, our wildlife refuges, our BLM grounds. This will work on our national parks. This will stop Congress from stealing the money that they have for decades and put it back into the national parks for generations to come.
Senator John Tester, who introduced a bill for full funding 11 years ago, calls today a, quote, big deal for the Treasure State's great treasure, our public lands. A Lockwood family is out of their home after a fire broke out in the garage, spreading to a trailer, then to the main home. Fire happened around 8:30 on Tanglewood Lane. Everyone did make it out safely, but the house is considered a total loss. The garage was full of appliances. Cause of that fire under investigation. And fire crews have reached 100% containment on the Falling Star fire that was burning north of Park City. Fire lines have been dug around the entire perimeter, and firefighters got some help from an inch of rain that fell in that area last night. Officials expect to see hot spots pop up over the next 2 days in the 2,200 acres of burned land. Local fire crews from Park City and Columbus will monitor the hot spots for the next 2 days. Well, a big plane landed here in Billings today. The Russian Antonov aircraft is one of the largest planes in the world. It'll be transporting a helicopter to help fight fires in Indonesia. The Chinook helicopter is part of a fleet of aircraft owned by the Billings Flying Service. Co-president of the company, Gary Blaine, spoke with Q2 about their mission and everything that they're taking with them.
We have a crew of firefighters. We're all heading to Indonesia. They're actually being proactive on fires. It's not for a specific fire, but Indonesia wants to be more in the game of large aircraft on fires, a little bit more like the United States. That helicopter is going in that plane with the crew. There's also a container, a sea container like the ships carry, and it's completely packed full of parts. Our guys have, they have a pretty good idea of what it takes to keep one of these running for a year. Everything from spare engines to gearboxes, oil, fluids, all of that kind of stuff, and it's all going with us, everything.
Well, the Billings Flying Service will be in Indonesia helping to fight fires for the next year, and they're set to leave here tomorrow. The another side note from the day, while Billings Flying Service was inspecting the Antonov, Gary's daughter, Ellie, was proposed to by her boyfriend. The groom-to-be, Trey Blozer, knew Gary was going to be in Indonesia, and he wanted him to be there when he popped the question to his daughter, and she said yes, by the way. Well, since the start of the pandemic, airports across the country have noticed a huge decrease in passengers. Now, almost 5 months after Montana's first COVID-19 case, we checked in with Billings Logan Airport for an update on passenger numbers. We are, as you might expect, far from normal, but doing better than many other places.
If you recall, back in April, we were probably running about 92% off, so about 8% of normal. That's steadily come back. Right now we're almost at 50%, which is way ahead of the rest of the nation.
Plone tells us the rest of the nation is operating at around 30 to 35%. He says there's plenty of speculation as to when Billings and other airports will return to normal numbers. He says a lot of that depends on whether or not there is a vaccine. Well, up next on tonight's 5:30 News, fighting for Liam. We're going to meet an 8-month-old warrior who gives strength a whole new meaning. And in sports, your Billings Scarlets and Royals suddenly share the state AA baseball tournament at Dealer. Both teams weigh in.
And coming up in weather, that was a record rainfall that fell last night. Now, the big question is there any more rain out there? And what's coming up after that? We'll have the details and the answers in a few more minutes.